now. So,
Okay, I'm going to mute for a moment.
okay, me too. The other thing I want to suggest, Tim, is emailing folks ahead of time, like a reminder email. I mean, I send them one from a logistics standpoint, but since you have the full database.
For the sessions themselves, or yeah, there's an automated email that goes out before the session that they've registered for. You can't hear me? Oh, interesting.
I can hear you.
Okay.
I can hear
Yeah.
you.
Okay. I couldn't hear you. All right. Hello. Good morning. It's we're right at the top of the hour. Let's wait about 2 more minutes for people to come in. As good journalists will do, they are working well on deadline, so they're coming in, and we'll get started around 2 or 3 after, depending on what that flow looks like coming in the door. I'll be right back. All right. We still have some people coming in, but in the interest of keeping this tight and not running over, I want to get started. So, welcome to another session of looking at our newsletters and how to make them better. Let me just share my screen and we can get going. There is the wrong one. Hold on a second. Okay. I think I'm going to have to check this for a minute. Yeah, I don't know. Fran, you're seeing my desktop, correct?
I'm seeing your screen. I'm seeing your PowerPoint.
So you're seeing the presentation piece of it?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. I didn't, it's not looking like that here, but that's totally fine. So let's get started. There's a lot to get going with this. And this today is about increasing email newsletter click rate. And but before we get going, I do want to have a fair warning about this session. It's going to be a little bit different than some of the previous sessions. Previously, there's been a lot of information that I walked through, less of the Q&A, at least the Q&A directed by me towards you. So there's going to be a little bit of that. And also, I just want to kind of give you a heads up also about at the end. I really believe that everybody who's in the session today, and certainly everybody who's been following along and throughout the course, you need to sign up for some one-on-one time in the coming week. And the reason for that is simple. Number one, the session is going to double in length. The available time is going to be a half hour because I think we need to do a deep dive for each of you on what your goals are for the rest of the year. We will have, at this point, by the time we get through this session, we will have gone through a lot of the basics on what can be done. And there's some more things to come about what to do with those people when you get them into the fold, and some more sophisticated techniques around producing the newsletter and making it look great. But this is a good time, a little bit past midway in the course, to stop and set some goals. And what's going to happen is that we will sit down in this half-hour session. You'll tell me about what your goals are, what you're trying to get to. Are you trying to increase your total subscribers? Are you looking to up your click rate? Whatever it is. And together, we're going to craft a plan to make that happen. And it's going to have immediately achievable tactics that you can drop into place, and there may be some longer term things as well, depending on your specific setup and what kind of resources you have available to you, and how quickly, in some cases, you can get access to those resources. So more specifics at the end of this session. But if I don't hear from you signing up, I will come after you in a friendly way, but I try to get you to sign up for some time. I've set up about 30 hours next week that are available. So within that time, I certainly think that we can all find time to get together for this half hour. If we don't use it all, that's fine, but I don't want the looming 15 minutes hanging over our heads as we try to get going. So just a quick reminder as we jump in today, we've been going through 3 sessions. Today's about getting more clicks. What we're going to find as we go through today is this becomes the wrap up of a very holistic approach. There's not going to be a whole lot different in getting more clicks. It's just a slightly different spin on some of the techniques that we've talked about before. So I really want to bring these all together and remind us all about how these pieces all work together. So quickly, a reminder, we talked about what an open rate is. It's just a simple calculation. How many of these did you send out? How many were actually delivered properly, and how many people opened them? And for instance, if you if you had 300 people open on a 1,200 email send, what that comes up to is a 26, almost 27% open rate. Just so we're based in the same math here. Similarly, what a click rate is, there are different ways that people report click rates in different organizations. Across this group, I think that we're all in alignment on this, on the way that MailChimp and others report it, which is your click rate is the number of emails that you have successfully delivered um, out of all of them that you have sent that have a click. So it's not a percentage of the opens that are clicked. It is a percentage of all sends that are clicked, and that's why they tend to be, across the board on the averages in single digits. We're working towards how can we improve that, but also how can we, within those averages of rates, how can we do a better job of getting more people at the end of the funnel to come in and click. And let's look at real briefly. These are the average numbers from MailChimp for media publications sending out newsletters. These are the open rates and these are the click rates. So 22% of all of the newsletters that are sent are opened, and about 4.5% of the newsletters that are sent have at least one click on them. And you will have access, of course, within your own individual metrics about among those who do click, how many clicks do you get from different, on average, what do your heavy users look like, what do your light users look like? But these are just averages across the industry. And this is the way we tend to look at it. And this is a way that I think it's also really important to remember what we're dealing with here. There's a vast amount of the mail that you put your hard effort into, time, the talents of you and your team, the efforts to put it together, to build the list, and then so many of them are not opened, so many of them are not clicked on. So the whole goal of this entire course has been to raise your awareness of what the tools are that are available to you, what some of the methods are that are available to you, to increase those numbers and to get more of the people who at some point said, yes, you can contact me, and yes, you can send me email, get more of them to open that email and get more of them to click on it and engage with it when they get it. So that's why we're here. And when you think about it, if somebody doesn't open or doesn't click an email, it's just a lost opportunity. Your email is invisible to someone who doesn't open it. There's no exposure to your team's work, the journalism that you're trying to accomplish. Caroline is asking a question. Do you see that, Fran? She just raised her hand. I don't think I can see that.
I'll take a look. Give me a second.
Okay.
The PowerPoint is small, she says. I don't see it small, but.
Anybody else have that problem?
Oh, your face is the main screen, someone said, and your PowerPoint is, no, I'm not seeing the same thing.
Well,
Okay, it just switched for her. She's fine.
Okay, that's strange. I did nothing. So, because I'm looking for how to, I want to swap the screens, but if that's, does that make any difference? Or are you now seeing my preview screen?
I'm seeing two. Go back to whatever you were doing before, because there was nothing wrong with your screen on.
Okay, excellent. Okay. So, again, just briefly here. If somebody doesn't click, they're not informed. They're not getting the story that you built for them. If they don't click, they're less likely to open a future newsletter. That's not a, that's not from a study somewhere. That is just, common sense. The more somebody engages with your product, the more likely they're going to engage with future iterations of it. There's no opportunity if they don't click or open even to inform them about what your organization is about, what your needs are, what they can do to help support, and ultimately, what we're talking about here is a funnel, and it's a funnel that leads people into the product, into the journalistic product, but it also leads them into the space where they can work with you and help you and support the mission that you're undertaking. So we want to, while we talked a lot in these sessions about the reasons for a newsroom or one person even who's creating an informative product to want to get this information in front of people, it also gives you entry into forming a one-on-one relationship with people who want to support you. Whether that's through monetary support, whether that's joining the team as a volunteer, whether that is spreading the word about what you're doing, sharing newsletters, whatever it takes to make sure that your going concern remains a going concern and gets even more traction with the people that you're trying to reach in your communities. So that's kind of the reminder and the backup of the kind of the backstory to where we've gotten to today. And I just want to talk a little bit about, what is it that, we are doing about it, and to remind you of some of the things that have gone in previous sessions. And if there's a piece of feedback that I have heard a few times, and this is me perhaps being a little geekier about how to solve for these things and trying to give you lots of solutions, is that sometimes these sessions can feel like they fly by so quickly because there's so much in them. So what I want to talk about are what are just the two best things out of all the things that we've talked about and we'll talk about today, that you can do, that you can adopt and to make a difference. So 2 sessions ago, we talked about growing the list. And I think clearly the number one way to grow your list is to create more opportunities for your users to sign up. And the most obvious way to do that, and the one I was thinking about when I put this as number one, is putting prominently on your site, whether it's in the sidebar towards the top, whether it's at the end of a story, whether it's in an overbar on your site, a way for users to know that there is a newsletter or newsletters and that they should sign up right now. There are other pieces to this as well. If you can drive more traffic to your website, that will also create more opportunities for people to sign up, especially if you've already implemented one or more of these areas where it's just drop dead obvious of how to sign up. And the second thing, and we talked about this a lot, is to make the sign up friction free. You need 2 things from these people. You need their permission and you need their email address. Let them give it to you as easily as possible. Thank them for signing up. Tell them what's coming, but don't ask for a lot of information on that first sign up. And in fact, if possible, if with your developers or plugins or through some tools that we have to share, that we can point you to rather, put that sign up right there in that sidebar box or at the bottom of the story. Don't make them click to another page. Just take the information right there and hit submit. So do those 2 things, your list will grow. Secondly, we talked about open rate. What are the 2 things you can do out of all the, I think, 6 or 7 things we talked about for improving your open rate? Number one, from a pure improving the rate of effort is cleaning your list, making sure that you've got good email addresses, get rid of your bounces, make sure that people who are opening it are people that get segmented into one list, and people who don't open your email get segmented into different types of lists. One would be someone who just didn't open this week's email. You send it to them again towards the end of the week to say you may have missed this. Someone who hasn't opened their email for 3 or 4 weeks, you put them into a segmented list for reactivation to remind them of why they signed up and to ask them to, if they want to continue getting the newsletter, and send them the most recent one as part of that effort. So again, as much as possible, make sure your list is full of fans and not full of names that are just cluttering things up that may have moved on months or even years ago. And second, because it's a mobile world and because so many more emails, both just one-to-one emails and subscription emails are open on mobile devices, we need to start thinking and acting directly in that space and making sure that subject lines are mobile sized, which is about 33 characters for your subject lines. That's a little bit harder to do, but it makes it more likely that somebody who sees your email in their inbox on their mobile phone will understand why it is that they should open it. And if you've done a good job in writing that subject line, then you will probably get a much better open rate. So those two things together, I think, are, if you were only going to do focus on two areas, those are the two areas. The specifics for those are with detail around how to do them for both of these so far are in the previous PDF that was sent along after the last sessions. And then finally, today's topic, improving click rate. What are the best two things there? I'm going to stop before we go there because I promised you at the beginning of this session that we would talk about what you are doing, and I do want to get a sense from you. What have you tried so far? I see there are 17 messages here. Let me see if I can even see some of them.
Let me look at some of the questions here.
Yeah, I see most of them are about the problems with the.
Yeah, there are a couple questions here. Can you automate the send to subscribers who didn't open, or do you recommend writing a separate, here's what you missed email?
You could do both. So what you do is, let's say in MailChimp or Constant Contact, both of them have a reactivation segmentation where you can set up, create your list, and then set up an automatic send. And within that, you can customize what it says. So you can put a new top on it. So I would do both. You don't want to have to be manually managing lists. Use the tools within your systems that you have, but definitely put a message at the top of it. And again, there was some suggestions in a previous session. Happy to share some more thoughts on that as well, John. If we in fact, let's make sure you get out there and sign up for next week as well, because I want to help you craft what that message might look like, and it's personalized not to the individual person, it's personalized to their behavior. So you signed up. We're glad to have you. We haven't seen you for a while. Is there something we could do differently? Have you had a chance to look recently? We're all very busy. Here's the most recent newsletter. We'd love to count you among the active again. You can also mention that, if you don't open going forward, we're going to put you on the inactive list. And sometimes that will bump people to reconsider, because let's face it, when we sign up for things, we want to interact with them, but time gets in the way. We're all very busy people. So sometimes a little bit of a reminder. It may seem when you're sending it that it's a bit nudgy to be reminding people that they didn't open something. But if you think on your end, if it's something that you want and you get a reminder, it's oh, great, thanks. If it's somebody you don't want to talk to ever again and they won't let you alone, that could be annoying. We need to find out who that person is. Are they sick of hearing from us, or do they wish they had thought to build the time into their week so that they could open it? And if people aren't interested anymore, nothing wrong with that. Let them go. I wouldn't spend a lot of time saying please stay. I would, let their behavior speak for themselves, but give them a chance to stay on the list. So that's what that's all about. And I see Ken is also talking about mobile headlines being truncated, trying to tease the story. And if you remember, when we talked about this last week, on mobile, you'll also see the pretext that is on at the top of your email as well. Some of that, at least, that will be shown after the subject line. So you can think of it as a headline and a subhead, and it doesn't have to be a teasy headline. It can be something that is, in fact, very factual and very straightforward, and then the subhead gives a little more depth to it. But if you don't cut it off yourself, it will be cut off for you. So that's just the way I look at it. Is I'd rather control. If I only have 33 characters to work with, I want to write to those 33 characters rather than just have it chomp off in the middle of a word. And maybe the best, what you really were trying to say was after that cutoff point. So you have to start thinking about, you just have very little space to work with. Another way to think of these is billboards on the side of the highway. You can't put a lot of copy on a billboard. People have about 3 seconds to look at it. Same thing's happening in their email. They've got a very limited space and a very limited amount of time. And we want them to open it. So whatever we can do, as long as it takes, just a few minutes, it's worth the effort to get people to open the email. Ken, I hope that helps. Ken, what are you, and John both, what have you started to think about what it is that where you'd like to focus between now and the end of the year for your newsletters, and what is it the growing the number of your newsletters, growing your open rate? Is there a way, Fran, to promote people into talking online, or can we just do this in text?
No, not with a webinar. You can't promote.
Okay. So John just raised his hand, but I don't see anything in the thread here. Oh, he was just trying to respond.
Let me see what I can do here.
Okay.
Keep going, but let me see if I can, maybe I can promote him in a second. Give me.
Okay. It looks like I clicked on. There we go. Back. Okay. So Ken, you say you're not generating enough content right now, so you're not putting out news alerts. I remember we talked about this, and you were considering whether, maybe there's not enough for a weekly newsletter, or what if I did a monthly newsletter? And a monthly is better than nothing. Weekly is certainly a lot better than monthly, but if all you have is enough for once a month, it's at least getting you in front of your audience 12 times a year in their inbox. So I would just do that. I would take your best 5 stories of the past month and let people know about them in case they haven't heard about them.
Tim, John can speak now.
John, go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you. First time call?
First time, long time. So my goals are certainly to grow our list, and we've implemented some of the ideas that you've given us in terms of making it a lot more available, way more opportunities for people to sign up to our newsletter, and we have seen some steady growth there.
John, could you tell everybody what your publication is?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, this is John Adams from the Montana Free Press, montanafreepress.org.
Mm-hmm. And so what have you implemented? You've added some more of the.
So in all of our stories now, we include code that takes people to our landing page, our MailChimp sign up landing page, mm-hmm. Which is branded. The only thing that it's not on our site, so it's on MailChimp server, but it's branded with our messaging. And we've seen some steady growth there. And then we've also included did somebody forward you this email? Would you like to sign up? And I think we've seen some steady growth there. But we want to continue that growth. But the other thing that we want to do is we want to get a little bit more specific in our newsletter offerings. So for those folks who want to subscribe to daily updates, they get the daily updates. The people who just want to hear from us once a week, they hear from us once a week. The folks who want to hear from us the moment we publish a story, they get that notification. So we're working on developing that. And then I've actually hired one of my freelance editors to, he's actually going to just take over writing our newsletters so that we have actual freshly written newsletter content, because lately, because I've been so busy, I've just automated the RSS feed, which I know you said is a no-no, but I figured the RSS feed is better than, intermittent whenever I can get to it, newsletters.
It is, and as you've hinted, it's always better to do more with it. Just like with Ken's monthly newsletter, better to be weekly. So don't stop on that for too long. I'm glad you got somebody set up to help, and if you both can make it to the to a session next week, I think it'll be that much better. And again, I'm gonna hit on this. To my message about it's never, it's never too much to ask people to do what you want them to do. Sign up for the even if you haven't, especially if you haven't previously. It's going to be a half hour well spent, and you're gonna walk away from that with some analysis of the numbers that you've shared, some real world kind of baselines of what you would expect to grow to. And then, if you have already set some goals, we could talk about, what that looks like as a percentage of beyond what the baseline would have been, and what are some things to do to get there. And you together we'll build this, and you can walk away with that, put in whatever form you want, and, a good bit of your work is done in selling this upwards if you have to. If you need that.
Tim, we have a question from Ramona. Says she has a question. I'm assuming she didn't want to write it, so I'm going to give her a chance to come on. If I can find Ramona, there she is. She's got her hands up. So let me see. Ramona, you should be able to talk now.
Yes. Hi, Fran. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you, Ramona, and let everyone know where you're from. And
okay,
then,
hi. This is Ramona and Josh. We're from San Jose Spotlight in San Jose, California. And if it's okay, I have two really quick questions. One was about, on our website on sanjosespotlight.com, we have a pop-up. So when people go on our website, there's a pop-up that tells them, to sign up for the newsletter. I know some people think that's annoying, but we just launched a couple months ago, so for us, we're really trying to promote it. When we, in our email newsletters, when we put in a line that says, where you forwarded this email and sign up now for your own, to subscribe for yourself, we don't really have a place to point them to, because all we have is a pop-up. So I was curious, should we set up like a separate page through MailChimp or through our own server? Because there's really no link other than sanjosespotlight.com, which is the main page where the pop-up comes up.
Yeah, I would definitely, you want to have a page on your site no matter what. That's called new, or that it can be found when your site is crawled. And if somebody then is searching for your site and email or newsletter or whatever, it's going to come up in Google search as well. But it gets you to past this point, this problem that you have right now, which is you don't have any way to point somebody towards a pure subscription page. So either ideally on your page, if you have to, over on MailChimp with your customization on it, that would be the way to go with that.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. And then the other quick question was, MailChimp does let us know who unsubscribed for whatever reason, whether they're no longer interested or whatever they feel is the reason they no longer want to receive our newsletters. Do you recommend that we reach out to them in some specific way without being annoying, just to kind of figure out what turned them off, why did they unsubscribe, and maybe to try to get them back?
So when MailChimp has an option when people unsubscribe to give a reason. So and it's, the way it works is they're already unsubscribed, and you're just saying, trying to get a sense from them. I wouldn't chase after them because so few people actually unsubscribe. It's a real conscious decision to unsubscribe, and I mean, I know that there's some tools out there that will help you unsubscribe, and it's a little bit faster and easier. But so many people have a soft unsubscribe, they stop opening. And for someone to make that effort, I think it might feel a little unwelcome at that point. You might want to keep a list of them, and then maybe 3 months down the road, send them a friendly email saying, actually, you can't. I'm sorry. You can't do that, because once they've unsubscribed, they've removed the permission to contact them.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, I'm going down a bad path here. So, you once they are unsubscribed, you can't reach out to them again until they reach out to you. So,
Ramona, I suggest that this sounds like a good opportunity for you to take advantage of Tim's office hours, especially if you're a new startup. I mean, geez, set it up the right way and have Tim help you do that and get all your infrastructure together. So
and the tools are so you're with the MailChimp tools. It's maybe an hour or two at most to get this stuff set up, assuming you have control of the publishing of your site, and just creating a / newsletter page at the root of your site. This is all very quick stuff. So we could focus on that next week. We could, among other things. I'd love to. I know we've talked before, and I'd love to talk about kind of how to put some goals down there and say, by December 31st, we're going to be at this point. Whether you share them or not, it's just great to have that so that you know what you're working towards. Otherwise, everything's a win. We got 10 new subscribers today. That's great, but how does that look towards our master plan of where we want to be at the end of the year? Are we ahead of plan? Are we behind plan? It just really helps you.
Yeah,
and
our co-founder did do the one-on-one with you, Tim. Josh did, but I'll sign up as well because I missed it, unfortunately.
Oh, okay.
It'll be really helpful for me.
I'm gonna have just wrap up your thoughts here because I have another person who would like to talk. So
awesome.
Okay, Caroline, you have your hand raised, so you now have permission to. You should be able to talk.
Hey, Caroline, are you there?
Hold on, let me. I thought I allowed her to talk, but it looks like I didn't. Give me a second, Caroline, or write your question in the chat box. For some reason, I can't get you to unmute.
Sorry about that. I got up to wash my hands. I was eating an orange. What did you just say?
The tech will never work for that, right?
Yeah.
That's great. No, go ahead.
Sorry, what was the question?
Well, you had your hand raised. I don't know if you had a question.
Oh, I think it was still raised from when I was seeing the slides.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry.
Well, Caroline, while we got you, have you had any thoughts about where, kind of big picture, where you want to be 6 months from now?
Our biggest goal is to grow our newsletter growth, but we're also starting to experiment now with more mini newsletter campaigns. So one we're thinking about doing would be a legislative session wrap up that would just maybe be 4 or 5 emails on that special topic. So yeah, I would like to see us experimenting more with that kind of thing in addition to what we're doing with our weekly and daily newsletters.
Okay. And so, how would you promote those?
Well, we're definitely like in the very first round of testing. So initially, I think we're going to share it with all of our daily newsletter subscribers, and then for this first legislative wrap-up type mini campaign, and then I think what we're thinking is there might be a final email that asks people if there are certain topics they would like to see special issues on, and basically solicit feedback on the structure of that too, and that might inform how we go about promoting new ones in the future.
Well,
So,
yeah,
I guess.
that sounds really interesting. I'd love to hear how that works for the wrap up the legislature, and if if you'd like to schedule some time next week and we could kind of deal with this at the micro level of how would you build these mini newsletters or limited. They're almost like limited edition TV series, right? They have a beginning and an end. People might really like that, and they just need to know about them, because sometimes it feels like when you're signing up for a newsletter, you're making a lifelong commitment, and knowing that this is something that will come and go, will not only be wonderful for the time starved, but have that add-on effect of leaving them wanting more might bring them back for other products. So I think that's a really interesting topic.
Well, that's an open question for me too, in terms of if we did one that was a little bit more evergreen, how do you make people aware of that?
Well, I think the whole promotion question, how do you promote multiple newsletters? And would you remind people where you're coming from?
I'm at MinPost.
Okay, so you've got so many. You got a huge audience. You got a lot of different newsletters. So you have an opportunity to really promote these, and putting together that plan for how, almost like a template for how you roll out each one. Might make your life a whole lot easier as you do those. So sign up. I'd love to talk about it next week.
Yeah, that would be really helpful.
You think that through, as that's a new one for me, and I think I would learn a lot as well from your experience even to date. So thanks. I also see a note on here from John Adams from my friend Tom Davidson, who says if you know somebody who unsubscribed, reach out to them with a phone call or an email or whatever. A personal outreach is not going to put you in violation of canned spam, and if it does, you got weird friends. But he's right there. If you see somebody unsubscribe, that you go, wait a minute, why would Tim be unsubscribing from my email? It's an opportunity to just get some real good in-depth feedback from somebody who knows you and you know them. They're going to be honest if you kind of give them leave to be honest, and say, look, I'm not looking for you to say how wonderful it was and you were busy. Tell me what you really thought of my newsletter. You can't pay for that kind of information. So yes, do that. Just don't chase after people that you don't know who have unsubscribed, because at best they'll be a little annoyed. At worst they'll slap you with a canned spam violation, and you don't want that. Or they'll just take the easy route and mark you as spam, and then that will cause problems for your email delivery if you get too many of those. So there's that. Anybody else have some interesting things that you've tried over the past couple of weeks that you want to share with people? Or if you're still thinking about it, we'll come back again one more time at the end. Fran, I don't see anyone with raised hands. I think we've
No, I think we've gone through that list.
Okay, so think about it. I'd love to hear some new voices as we go forward. But here, let's just do a quick review of, let me close this so I can actually see my screen again, of the newsletter funnel. And people talk in marketing about funnels, and actually funnels are disappearing in the way that purchase decision is made. But I think this is still appropriate for this particular process, because as you go through, the engagement and the association between the two parties gets tighter. So the subscription, you can't do any of this without a subscription. And the two golden pieces there, I keep talking about this a lot. Oops, I'm sorry. Is the email address and permission to use it. You're kind of dating at this point. When someone opens an email, they're showing to you that they have interest, and that you've got their attention. And these are great signals to have. If someone has opened your email, and honestly, and maybe even if they haven't clicked, if you have the kind of newsletter where you can get a lot of information out of it without ever clicking through, then this is where you're starting to get into that relationship where you're getting as much as they're getting out of the time that you're spending together over email. The click is just further support of that. It's direct engagement. It's not just passive. I've opened it and I'm reading it. I'm reading it and I see something I want to know more about. So I'm digging in a little bit deeper. And I think that's a signal that we have a possible habit building here. That somebody has taken the 3 steps. They're more likely when you send the next newsletter to open it and then click on it. And that virtuous cycle just continues. And then the fourth level here is really over time cementing the affinity between me as a subscriber and you as a publisher, and specifically you as a nonprofit publisher, and thinking about the ways that I can spread the word about the publication, and thinking about the ways that eventually that I want to support it. I know that we're in journalism here. I hope that's not covering up my screen. There we go. We're thinking about things that we like, and we want to make sure they continue, and thinking about kind of without prompting, oh boy, I'd really like to support them. I hope there's a way to do that. But a lot of times people are kind of sitting in that state without making ready to make the active move, but they're very open to an approach where you say, we're doing this and we really need your help. And here are the ways you can help. And certainly you want to have money in there, but you want to give people also lots of ways to feel like they are joining the cause. And if this isn't the month or the year that they're going to give you money, don't leave on the table the opportunity for some way to become part of the team, whether that's as a contributor, as somebody who shares word of the organization, as somebody who can help in all kinds of ways. Maybe if you're a local news organization, maybe this is somebody who just is your eyes and ears in a particular part of your community. So this funnel of, as it gets to the fine point at the end, you've really got a tight integration between your user and your organization. And that's all we're trying to do with this entire course. So let's go back to click rate, since ostensibly that's what this session is about. And I think that the message here and what I've been talking about, and I think what we learn is there really aren't fine lines between all of these different pieces. Click rate is a lot like the other two, and especially it's a lot about open. It looks a lot like open, because again, most of the people who have opened your email are going to be on mobile if they're like typical users. So you've now got a newsletter in front of them. They've opened it. They're standing there holding their phone. If they see short headlines, it's going to make it a lot easier for them to know where to click, or to know what it is about. If you give them a brief synopsis of what they're about to click into, that respects the fact that it's a small screen and that there's a limited amount of space and that they don't have to scroll a lot, that's helpful too. So considering shorter copy, maybe even A/B testing shorter and longer copy, write the longer version that you're already doing and do an edit down to a shorter version. And that shorter version could be in length of description, or it could just be in quantity of objects that people can click on. And then also consider, as not necessarily right now, but as you get into a design phase of the next product that you're putting together, thinking about thumbable design. And thumbable design is big click targets because you're just smashing at it with your thumb. So this is a case maybe where buttons are great for read more instead of just a text link. I know we shouldn't be, but sometimes people pull up to a traffic light. We've got our hands-free mounted phone sitting down off the dashboard, and you're maybe it's reading an article, but you want to get to the next one. A great big button could be helpful there. Swipeable copy in your newsletter. If you're instead of scrolling down, sometimes swiping side to side might be more fun or more engaging for people to play around with. There's a lot of good thinking that's going on in this space, and I'm going to leave a note for myself here because I'd like to share some of that, because I think it's a lot of that is doable in WordPress, which I know a lot of us are using for a platform to be able to build these newsletters that are mobile friendly, and then thinking about your headlines as well. Certainly being being shorter and clickable. It's hard to write 30, 40 characters and make them super compelling, but it can be done. It's done all the time on inside pages of newspapers. You can write a short head that tells people what they're about to experience. You might want to write alt versions just for the newsletter, so that the longer ones can still live on the website. And this is very similar to the open rate and subject line. So the open rate subject line, you got to have a subject line that tells you the story so that you'll open it. As you're scrolling through the newsletter, you have to see headlines that will tell you what you're about to get. So really the message here is keep it tight. Don't overwhelm people with the amount of copy. But if there are two things that you can do that can really improve things, it's really thinking about mobile first, and within mobile, thinking about headlines that just you can't resist clicking on. And that's not a clickbait headline. That's a headline that is that gives you entry into the story that you're about to get to, with some sense of what's coming and some sense of why you want to do that. What is it about that headline that makes you want to click on it? And again, last week has very concrete examples of different reasons why people might click on things. These were about subject lines, but the same holds for headlines. And similarly, there were some tools in there about testing subject lines. There are also tools for testing headlines as well. I will share that so that we all have that. So we're getting closer to the end of our time here, but I did want to talk about next week once again. Most of the week is going to be open for me. Friday, I'm not available. I'm traveling, but I've tried to make as many early and into the early evening as well times available, so that you can find time that is convenient to your schedule. These are half-hour sessions, and we want to. I really would like to talk about goals. I want you to come to this session. To say, not so much, we hope to grow our newsletter subscriptions. Now, we all hope to grow our newsletter subscriptions. What's your current number? Where do you want to be by the end of the year? Or what's your current number? What's your percentage growth that you've been told you have to have? Whatever it is, let's talk about specifics, and then I will help you to think about ways to get to those specifics, and in realistic ways. And I'll tell you, if I think that, if you say that you want to triple your subscription base and you've already got 20,000 people, that's going to be unrealistic, probably. It might happen because of some viral thing that happens a couple times during the course of the year, but you cannot plan for virality. You have to plan for, what should you expect if you did nothing, and then what should you expect if you put some extra effort into all of these steps that we've been talking about. And I will work with you to get that together. If you're on this call, you really should be, you need to be on this, set up a time for next week. These are 30-minute sessions instead of 15-minute sessions. Please make the time. You can sign up starting now. Look, I even made it big. It's a really simple.
Can
yes.
you put the link right into the chat too before we end, so people can grab that link?
I can, except I can't copy this because I'm in.
You're in.
Let me get out of this. But let me find my chat window. Click on it. You'll be subscribed within moments, and I think you'll find a time that'll work for you. And I appreciate it. I know that sometimes we've had to move things around, and I try to make as much time as possible available. And I think it's definitely worth the effort. I think this session of all of them, you'll take something away from there that you will be able to make your job a whole lot easier. And for the three sessions following, there will be very specific follow-ups on those as well. Some of which are how some of the things that you may or may not be doing currently on your current site that are leading to you leaving a lot of traffic on the table, and whether or not you're getting linked to as much as you should be from Google. So I think that's I'll kind of leave that one out there. But I'm not seeing a lot of people that are getting the advantage of Google News links the way you should be. And there are some steps you can take to make sure that happens. And some of you clearly have already done that. So we'll be talking about that as well. Fran, do we have any more? I saw a bunch of questions pop up in chat, but now I don't see it anymore. Let's see, there's the chat window.
Tim, I don't see any functional questions.
Everyone is having problems with the graphics. That's very odd. I'm very sorry about that. Some people are seeing full screen. Some people are seeing very small. And we will get I will make sure this PDF gets out to everybody quickly so that you can see it while it's still fresh in your mind.
I don't see anything else in the chat.
Okay. What time is it? We got a couple more minutes. If you think of anything, going once, going twice. My email, I'm easy to reach. I'm tim@windsordigital.com. Just if a question occurs to you, better yet, sign up for a session, and we can start the conversation even before we have our session next week. In fact, you may, I asked some questions about what we're going to be talking about, and you may hear from me before the session with some more specific follow-ups, because I want to make sure that your time is well spent. And so I do put in prep time at least as much as the time we spend together, so that these things go quickly, but also have a lot of meat on them that you can get out of. So I hope to hear from all of you, and tell your friends who didn't make it today that that are signed up that this is the week to come in for the sessions. If you come for only 1 week, this is the one. And if you come for all the weeks, please come again. So thanks for coming, everybody, this week. I'm really looking forward to talking to you. Fran, anything else from you?
No, I was just going to suggest that maybe sending out that link to folks who on your
that is going out today.
Great. All right.
Anybody who didn't attend is on a list.
Okay. All right. All right.
So
You've got your own email list going on. So
I do. So thanks, everybody. Talk to you all next week, and see you here week after for the next session.
Thanks, everybody. Take
you.
care. Thanks, Tim.
I know.